The courtroom was suffocating with whispers, cameras, and judgment. Ava Sinclair clutched trembling hands as Victoria's lawyer thundered accusations of fraud. Her 2-year-old daughter, Lily, cried in Sarah's arms, reaching desperately for her mother. The judge leaned forward, prepared to speak the words that could shatter Ava's world forever. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras clicked, and Victoria's icy smile widened from the front row. Just then, the doors burst open with a heavy echo. Jameson Reed, a man with power in every step, strode inside. The entire room froze, every gaze turning toward him as hope flickered across Ava's tearful eyes. Before we uncover how betrayal, lies, and love will collide in this unforgettable story, I want you to join this journey with me. If you love emotional dramas filled with shocking twists, courtroom battles, and billionaire romance, this channel is for you. Don't just watch, be part of this community. Hit the subscribe button so you never miss a chapter. Tap like to support these stories, and drop a comment to share your thoughts or predictions. And most importantly, share this video with friends who love stories that grab the heart and refuse to let go. Let's dive in together. 1 month earlier, Mark Sullivan sat in his office, numbers bleeding red across every spreadsheet. He was Ava Sinclair's husband, father of little Lily, and heir to the Sullivan name. But behind the polished exterior, he was drowning. Failed investments, reckless loans, and personal indulgences had gutted his finances. He faced exposure, disgrace, and possible prison. Desperate, he reached for the one person closest to him, Ava. By forging her signature, he created fake accounts in her name, transferring money he had stolen. He told himself it was temporary, a lifeline until he recovered. In truth, he was building her ruin to save himself. Mark's scheme collapsed faster than he expected. Auditors flagged the phantom accounts, and whispers began swirling through corporate halls. Cornered, he chose survival. He painted Ava, the woman who cooked his meals, folded his shirts, and loved him without conditions, as the architect of his fraud. He drafted statements, telling friends and business partners that she had mishandled finances. He rehearsed interviews before mirrors, voice cracked in practiced regret. At home, Ava poured Lily's milk, unaware her husband had already scripted her destruction. When the first article hit the press, Mark closed his laptop with steady hands. Betrayal polished like steel. Victoria Sullivan, Mark's mother, never liked Ava. She thought Ava lacked pedigree, polish, and the social standing required a Sullivan wife. To Victoria, Ava was temporary, a fragile ornament destined to break. When Mark blamed Ava, Victoria seized a chance. She called her attorneys, prepared donations to influence judges, and spread whispers among charities she funded. For Lily's stability, she said in public, but in private, she vowed to remove Ava completely. She pictured her granddaughter raised under her careful control, molded as a Sullivan heir. The scandal wasn't a tragedy for Victoria. It was her long-awaited opportunity. Ava, once proud to be part of the Sullivan family, found her name dragged across headlines. Socialite wife linked to fraud, screamed one cover. Photographers camped outside her apartment, flashes burning her eyes. Neighbors who once waved now whispered. Her job placed her on unpaid leave, citing reputation concerns. Bills piled high, while Mark retreated into silence, living comfortably under his mother's protection. Ava clutched Lily, who toddled about with stuffed animals, unaware of the storm. The weight of shame grew unbearable. To the world, Ava was a liar. To Lily, she remained only mama, her last tether to peace. The eviction notice arrived folded once, crisp and merciless. Ava sat on the floor, Lily in her lap, staring at the words, "Remove possessions within 30 days." Sarah Mitchell, her oldest friend, arrived with groceries and an embrace that held more strength than Ava thought possible. "We'll fight this," Sarah promised. Ava barely nodded. Lily reached for her rabbit toy and chewed its ear, giggling. The innocence stabbed Ava's chest. How could her daughter's life shrink to suitcases and borrowed rooms? Ava kissed Lily's curls, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep, praying strength would return before tomorrow. Soon after, another letter arrived, this one colder. Petition for custody, Victoria Sullivan versus Ava Sinclair. The words blurred as Ava's hands shook. She clutched Lily tighter, the toddler squirming, restless but oblivious. Sarah read the document aloud, each sentence heavier than the last. Victoria claimed Ava was unfit, unstable, incapable of providing a safe home. Ava's tears blurred the ink. She was losing everything: home, dignity, and now, possibly her child. Sarah pressed her hand over Ava's. "We'll get through this." Ava buried her face in Lily's shoulder, inhaling her baby scent, promising herself she would not surrender so easily. The first day in Manhattan Family Court felt like stepping into judgment itself. Gray walls towered, indifferent and cold. Ava wore the plainest dress she owned, clutching Lily's hand until Sarah guided the child to a seat. Mark sat at the counsel table, his tailored suit pristine, his face rehearsed into solemn innocence. Victoria sat proudly beside him, pearls shining, her disdain unhidden. Reporters filled the benches, waiting to dissect every glance. Ava held her breath as the bailiff called the room to order. She tightened her fists, repeating one prayer: "Please, let them see I am not what they say." Victoria's lawyer rose with confidence sharpened by years of victories. He clicked through slides that displayed Ava's name beside forged transfers, labeling her reckless and unfit. Each word carved her reputation deeper into disgrace. He spoke of Lily's need for stability, for structure, for guardians capable of offering opportunity. "Mrs. Sullivan," he said, gesturing toward Victoria, "has raised children, funded hospitals, and built schools. She can provide the stability Ava cannot." Murmurs swelled across the courtroom. Ava clutched her dress, her knuckles pale. The truth seemed drowned beneath practiced cadence and polished lies, while the judge scribbled notes without pause. Mark took the stand next, perfecting the image of a weary but innocent man. His voice trembled in just the right places as he described sleepless nights, discovering irregularities, and confronting Ava. "I trusted her," he said softly, eyes lowered as though in pain. The courtroom gasped sympathetically. Ava stared, heart pounding. She remembered nights he'd ignored her questions, weekends he disappeared, and arguments silenced with coldness. Now, those same habits were painted as her failures. Sarah squeezed her hand, whispering, "Stay strong." Ava breathed slowly, but every word Mark spoke was a dagger, cutting away what little dignity remained. Finally, Ava was called to speak. She rose, her knees trembling but her eyes steady. "I have never authorized a transfer," she said, voice clear. "I have never hidden money. I have lived for my daughter." She explained her work, her paycheck, her bills. She spoke of rent paid late, groceries bought with coupons, nights she walked instead of paying for a cab. The lawyer interrupted, firing questions faster than she could answer. "Isn't it true you benefited from these funds?" he pressed. Ava shook her head firmly. "No, I didn't. I am innocent." Her words echoed into silence. The silence broke when Lily's cry filled the courtroom. From Sarah's arms, she reached desperately toward Ava, sobbing, "Mama." The judge hesitated, compassion flashing briefly before returning to procedure. "Please remove the child," he said. Sarah rose, whispering comfort, and carried Lily outside, the sound of her wailing fading as the door closed. Ava felt her chest tighten, the ache nearly unbearable. The lawyer smirked, seizing the moment to resume his attack. Ava gripped the railing, fighting to steady her breath. Every part of her screamed to run after Lily, but she stood, refusing to let them see her break. When the session ended, Ava staggered into the corridor, knees weak. Reporters swarmed, microphones shoved near her face, questions laced with judgment. Sarah shielded her, guiding her down the stairs to the waiting car. "Don't answer them," Sarah urged, holding Lily tightly once they reunited outside. Ava collapsed in the seat, clutching her daughter. "They'll take her, Sarah," she whispered. Sarah's voice was firm. "Not if you keep fighting." Ava kissed Lily's forehead, her tears wetting soft curls. She prayed for strength, though inside she felt hollow, powerless against a machine designed to grind her down until nothing remained. 2 weeks later, Ava walked into Reed Global, clutching a folder of documents. She had secured temporary work through an agency, desperate for income. The lobby gleamed with marble floors and mirrored walls, a world apart from her reality. Jameson Reed, CEO, passed by, glancing at her briefly. He recognized her name, the scandal attached, and felt irritation at her presence. Yet he said nothing, signing documents as his assistant hurried beside him. Ava sat at a desk in a quiet corner, determined to work silently. Lily played with blocks at Sarah's apartment, blissfully unaware her mother's world was collapsing. Life became a brutal rhythm. Mornings meant dropping Lily at Sarah's before work. Evenings meant trudging back with exhaustion heavy in her bones. Bills still piled. Court dates loomed, and Ava stretched every dollar until nothing remained. She brought snacks for lunch, hid from co-workers' whispers, and swallowed humiliation daily. At night, she sat at the small table, studying legal documents under dim light, Lily curled against her lap. Ava whispered promises to her daughter, promises she feared she couldn't keep. Every breath felt like balancing on a rope that threatened to snap, leaving both of them to fall together. One evening, disaster struck when the babysitter canceled unexpectedly. Sarah couldn't help. Her shift ran late. Ava had no choice but to bring Lily with her to the office. She carried her daughter through Reed Global's glass doors, praying no one would notice. Lily clutched her toy rabbit, eyes wide in the bright lobby. Ava settled into her desk, whispering to Lily to stay quiet. Hours passed as Ava typed and highlighted papers. When Lily grew restless, Ava rocked her gently while balancing files. She didn't notice Jameson watching from his office doorway, his expression unreadable as he observed quietly. Jameson stood in the doorway longer than he expected, watching the woman everyone condemned as reckless and unfit. Ava balanced spreadsheets with one hand while cradling her daughter with the other, exhaustion playing across her face. Lily eventually drifted asleep, head pressed against Ava's chest, while Ava whispered through tears as she continued reading legal notes. Jameson turned away before she could notice him, unsettled. He had dismissed her as another socialite scandal, but the scene contradicted every headline. Ava didn't look like a fraud. She looked like a mother fighting desperately to hold her world together. Doubt stirred within him. Days later, Ava returned to court for another hearing. Victoria's lawyers pounced, filing new motions and pushing for expedited custody. Ava sat rigid, clutching her folder of documents, her pulse racing. She had prepared testimony, rehearsed answers, but still her voice trembled when called. Sarah held Lily in the back row, the child's soft cries echoing faintly. Ava spoke of working 2 jobs, of surviving on little, of her daughter's happiness. The opposing counsel dismissed her words as desperation. Victoria sat serene, pearls gleaming, lips curved into the faintest smile. Ava left the stand feeling crushed, yet not completely defeated. The lawyers argued relentlessly. They portrayed Ava as unstable, pointing to tabloid clippings, unpaid bills, and the scandal Mark had orchestrated. They painted a picture of chaos, of a mother incapable of offering stability. Ava clenched her fists, wanting to scream. When the judge asked for Lily's well-being, Sarah stepped forward briefly, describing the child's laughter, her healthy growth, and Ava's devotion. The judge nodded but offered no hint of decision. Ava's heart sank. She walked out of the courthouse with Sarah and Lily, the noise of reporters flooding her ears. She held Lily close, whispering, "I won't lose you." Afterward, Ava sat alone in the courthouse restroom, tears spilling into her hands. She thought of nights rocking Lily to sleep, of the joy in her daughter's laughter, and of Victoria's cold determination to take it all away. The mirror reflected a woman she barely recognized, hollow eyes, weary shoulders, determination flickering but not extinguished. Sarah knocked, holding Lily at the doorway. The child stretched out her tiny hands toward Ava, crying softly. Ava gathered her daughter close, pressing her cheek to Lily's hair. "You're all I have," she whispered, "and I'll fight until I can't breathe anymore, my love." Later that evening, Ava returned to Reed Global, exhausted. She sorted files quietly, determined to disappear into the background. Jameson passed by again, glancing at her with curiosity he wouldn't admit aloud. He noticed a child's small drawing tucked under her notebook, a scribble of circles and shapes labeled Mama in Sarah's handwriting. For the first time, Jameson wondered if he had judged Ava too quickly. Ava, unaware, kept her head down, unaware that someone powerful had begun to doubt the narrative crushing her. Somewhere in the city, Victoria dined with donors, confident her plan to erase Ava was succeeding. One morning, Ava sat quietly in Sarah's apartment, staring at the custody petition spread across the table. Lily played on the floor, humming to herself as she stacked blocks. Ava's eyes burned from tears, but she forced a smile each time her daughter looked up. "Mama's here," she whispered, though her voice cracked. Sarah placed tea beside her and squeezed her shoulder. "You can't give up." Ava nodded faintly, but inside, dread consumed her. Victoria was powerful, merciless, and determined. Ava knew she was facing more than legal papers. She was facing a woman who had always wanted her gone. Jameson's office. Late evening, Jameson Reed sat in his corner office long after his staff had left. The city lights glittered, but his mind replayed moments at Reed Global. He had seen Ava hunched over her desk, exhausted yet focused, balancing files while quietly caring for her daughter nearby. Gossip painted her as unstable, yet her actions didn't match the rumors. He leaned back in his chair, frowning. He disliked distractions, yet thoughts of her kept intruding. "Why do I even care?" he muttered. Still, he couldn't shake the image of a woman fighting with nothing left but her pride and her child. Another evening, Ava stayed late at Reed Global again, determined to finish her tasks. Lily sat on a folded blanket near the desk, babbling softly to her rabbit. Ava worked quietly, avoiding attention, but when the office emptied, she pulled out her court documents. Highlighter marks and scribbled notes covered the margins. She rubbed her temples, exhaustion threatening to overtake her. Hours later, her head drooped, and she slipped into sleep, arms still curled protectively around her daughter. When Jameson passed by during a final round of checks, he paused, unsettled by the sight. For once, he did not disturb her. The following morning, Ava startled awake at her desk. Lily stirred and whimpered before Ava hushed her quickly. Papers littered the desk, marked with late-night desperation. Embarrassment rushed over her as she gathered everything, praying no one had seen. Jameson passed by moments later, his gaze lingering before he turned away without comment. Ava's cheeks flushed, but she lifted her chin, determined not to appear weak. She held Lily close, whispering, "We'll be okay." The words felt thin, fragile as glass. She carried her child out of the building. Unaware, Jameson's mind still lingered on the quiet scene he witnessed. Court resumed days later. Ava dressed Lily in her neatest outfit, though the child quickly smudged crumbs on her sleeve. Sarah carried her into the gallery, while Ava faced a stand. Victoria's attorneys attacked with precision, painting Ava as unstable, pointing to unpaid bills in her modest home. Ava countered with receipts, letters, and witnesses, but each was dismissed. Victoria sat calm, pearls shining, whispering occasionally to Mark, who smirked. Ava's hands trembled when she held Lily afterward, her tears dampening her daughter's hair. "I'll never let them take you," she vowed, though the cracks in her spirit deepened. Manhattan Family Court, high-stakes hearing. The high-stakes hearing drew a heavy crowd. Photographers waited outside, flashes firing as Ava entered. Sarah held Lily close, shielding her from the noise. Inside, Victoria's lawyer announced, "We present new evidence." He lifted a thick folder and displayed forged bank records linking Ava to secret transfers connected to Jameson Reed's company. Shock swept the courtroom. Ava's stomach twisted. She had never seen these documents before. The judge demanded silence as whispers filled the gallery. Ava's face flushed with panic, her protest drowned by murmurs. Even Lily whimpered in Sarah's arms. Ava's world tilted sharply, threatening to collapse completely. Mrs. Sinclair misused funds and exploited her connection to Mr. Reed, the lawyer declared. Every eye turned toward Ava, then toward the absent billionaire whose name now shadowed hers. Ava's voice cracked as she cried, "That's not true." The gavel struck sharply. "Order," the judge commanded. Victoria's lips curled into a satisfied smile, while Mark folded his arms smugly. Ava's chest heaved, her knees trembling, but she forced herself upright. The humiliation was unbearable, yet she wouldn't collapse before them. Across the courtroom, Sarah held Lily tighter. The toddler fussed loudly, a sound that pierced Ava's breaking heart like glass. When court adjourned, the hallway erupted in chaos. Reporters crowded around Ava, shouting accusations. "Are you Jameson Reed's mistress? Did you steal corporate funds?" Flashes blinded her as microphones pressed forward. Sarah pushed through the crowd, clutching Lily close. Ava's tears blurred everything until she collapsed against her friend. Jameson's name echoed across headlines before she even reached the car. Ava held Lily tightly, whispering to her baby though the child couldn't understand. "It's lies," she choked. "It's all lies." Behind them, Victoria and Mark swept past, exuding triumph. Ava felt herself sinking, fear whispering that she was already defeated. That night, Ava sat at Sarah's kitchen table, staring at the forged records. The numbers swam before her eyes. "This is hopeless," she muttered. Sarah leaned forward, voice steady. "No, it means someone powerful wants you gone. That means you fight harder." Ava shook her head, tears spilling. Lily toddled nearby, babbling softly to her rabbit, innocent to the storm. The television blasted speculation about her supposed affair with Jameson, each headline crueler than the last. Ava turned it off sharply. Silence pressed in. For the first time, she considered surrendering custody, if only to shield Lily from more pain. A knock startled them. Sarah opened the door to reveal Jameson Reed himself. Ava froze, clutching Lily instinctively. His presence filled the room with quiet authority. He set a folder on the table. "I want the truth," he said firmly. Ava's eyes narrowed, suspicion sharp. "You think I made this up?" Jameson shook his head. "No, but someone is dragging my name into this, and I won't be used." Ava's pulse quickened. For the first time, she saw more than a ruthless billionaire. She saw a potential ally. Hope sparked faintly, trembling but alive, deep in her exhausted heart. Ava stared at Jameson's folder on the table, uncertain whether to open it. Her hands shook. "Why help me?" she asked. Jameson's eyes remained steady. "Because this isn't just about you. Whoever is targeting you is using me too." Ava's defenses softened slightly. She knew he was right. Victoria's forged evidence had tied them together. Lily reached toward Jameson curiously, and he paused, caught off guard by the child's innocent gaze. Ava held her daughter close, whispering, "This fight is mine." Jameson nodded once. "Then let me stand beside you. Together, we might uncover the truth they're hiding." Over the following nights, Jameson and Ava worked side by side, reviewing files spread across Sarah's table. Jameson brought in resources Ava could never have access alone. Investigators, analysts, legal advisors. Ava resisted his help at first, pride battling desperation, but gradually she accepted it. Their partnership was uneasy yet undeniable. Sarah watched silently, recognizing something stirring between them. Lily, meanwhile, often toddled toward Jameson, giggling as he handed her toys or picked up the rabbit she dropped. Ava tried not to notice, but her heart shifted each time Jameson knelt to meet Lily's eyes, patient and unexpectedly gentle. One night, exhaustion silenced their work. Ava set down her pen, eyes heavy. "Mark wasn't always like this," she admitted quietly. "He used to be charming. He promised me stability, a family." Her voice broke. Then he changed. He lied, manipulated, and made me doubt myself until I felt worthless. Jameson leaned back, listening intently. "People like him thrive on control," he said firmly. Ava glanced at him, surprised by the weight of his words. "You sound like you know." Jameson's expression darkened. "I do." For a moment, silence stretched, heavy with secrets neither was ready to share fully. Jameson finally spoke, voice low. "Years ago, I trusted someone who betrayed me. She wanted my wealth, not me. By the time I saw the truth, I had lost more than money. I lost faith in people." Ava studied him, realizing his stern exterior wasn't just arrogance. It was armor built from scars. For the first time, she saw beyond the billionaire headlines to the man beneath. Their eyes lingered across the table, unspoken understanding passing between them. Lily stirred in her sleep, reminding Ava of reality. She broke the silence softly. I can't afford to lose faith. Not now. Jameson leaned forward, his voice steady. Then don't. We'll find the truth. Ava wanted to believe him, but doubts weighed heavy. She gathered the papers and tucked them away, whispering, I can't let Victoria win. Jameson nodded firmly. She won't. People like her believe money buys everything, but they underestimate the power of truth. For the first time, Ava felt less alone. She cradled Lily, pressing her lips to her daughter's hair. Jameson watched quietly, admiration stirring despite himself. He realized he wasn't just invested in clearing his name, he was invested in her. And that realization unsettled him deeply. Victoria's estate, secret plotting at her estate. Victoria Sullivan poured herself a glass of wine, satisfaction gleaming in her eyes. Mark sat nearby, restless. You think this will work? He asked nervously. Victoria smirked. It's already working. Ava is drowning in accusations. Soon, Lily will be exactly where she belongs, with us. Mark shifted uneasily. But Jameson Reed, he's starting to take notice. Victoria's smile hardened. Then we make sure he's silenced. Permanently. Mark swallowed, unsure she was serious. He had always followed his mother's lead, but this time, unease gnawed at him. Victoria, however, remained calm, convinced her plan was untouchable. Days later, Victoria met with David Shaw, Jameson's longtime driver. She had discovered his mounting debts and unpaid medical bills for a sick relative. Help us, and your problems disappear, she said coldly. David shifted in his seat, shame burning. He trusts me, he whispered. Victoria leaned closer. Trust doesn't pay bills. One accident and you're free. She slid an envelope of cash across the table. David stared at it, torn. The thought of betraying Jameson sickened him, but desperation clouded his judgment. Slowly, his hand moved toward the envelope, sealing a choice that would haunt him forever. Mark waited anxiously in Victoria's study after the meeting. He agreed, he asked. Victoria nodded, pouring more wine. Of course. Desperate men are predictable. Mark paced the floor. What if something goes wrong? Victoria's gaze sharpened. It won't. Jameson's testimony would destroy us. Without him, Ava crumbles. Mark hesitated, staring at his mother. And if he survives? Victoria's lips curved into a cold smile. Then we try again. Mark swallowed hard, unsettled by her ruthlessness. He wondered if even he was safe from her schemes. Victoria, however, felt only triumph. For her, it was simply another move in the game. Meanwhile, Ava tried to focus on work at Reed Global, but fear gnawed at her constantly. Every court date felt heavier, every headline more cruel. She sat at her desk late one evening, Lily asleep in Sarah's care, when Jameson appeared beside her. You're still here, he said softly. Ava nodded, eyes tired. I have to be ready. He studied her determination, then placed a folder on her desk. My investigator found something. Irregularities in Victoria's accounts. Ava's eyes widened. Hope flickered. So, it's not just me, she whispered. Jameson nodded. No, she's dirtier than she pretends to be. Ava clutched the folder, her heart racing. Inside were records showing money funneled through hidden channels, matching the same dates as the forged transfers pinned on her. This could prove everything, she whispered. Jameson's voice was steady. It's a start, but we need more before court. Ava nodded, determination hardening. For the first time, she felt the tide might shift. Lily's laughter from Sarah's apartment echoed in her thoughts, strengthening her resolve. Ava closed the folder and looked at Jameson. I'll fight, she said firmly. He met her gaze and nodded. Then you won't be fighting alone anymore. David Shaw gripped the steering wheel of Jameson's sleek black car, sweat dripping from his temple. He had driven Jameson for years, through board meetings and galas, trusted like family. Tonight, though, his stomach churned. Victoria's instructions echoed in his mind. A malfunction, a simple accident. Jameson entered. Phone pressed his ear, oblivious to the storm beside him. The city lights blurred as the car sped down the highway. David's hands trembled. He whispered an apology under his breath before slamming the brakes at the wrong moment, sending the vehicle skidding violently toward a concrete divider. Metal screeched, glass shattered, and the car spun in a horrifying blur. Jameson braced himself, muscles tensing as the airbag exploded. The car slammed against the divider, sparks bursting like fireworks. When the dust settled, Jameson groaned, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. David crawled out quickly, feigning panic, though his scratches were shallow. Bystanders rushed to the wreck, pulling Jameson from the mangled vehicle. Sirens wailed in the distance. Jameson's vision blurred, but one thought seared his mind. This wasn't an accident. Somewhere in the chaos, David avoided his eyes, guilt carved deep into his trembling face. News of the crash exploded across headlines. Billionaire Jameson Reed survives tragic accident. The papers screamed. Ava read the articles with trembling hands, her chest tightening. Sarah tried to calm her, but Ava's instincts screamed foul play. This wasn't random, she whispered. Her suspicions grew when Jameson called days later from the hospital. His voice was hoarse but steady. "I know who's behind this," he said. Ava froze. "Victoria." Jameson exhaled slowly. "She's not just targeting you. She came for me too." For the first time, Ava realized their battles had fused into one. Together, they were fighting for survival. Hospital recovery. 1 week later, Jameson sat propped against white pillows, bandages on his arm and forehead. Ava entered nervously, Lily clinging to her hand. Jameson's expression softened when the child toddled toward him, offering her rabbit toy. For a moment, the tension faded, replaced by an unfamiliar warmth. Ava cleared her throat. "Why did you ask to see us?" Jameson's gaze hardened again. "Because I won't let Victoria destroy you, or me. I've ordered my investigators to dig deeper." Ava's chest tightened. For the first time, she felt safer in his presence, though her heart battled fear. "Then we fight," she whispered resolutely. Meanwhile, Victoria fumed when she learned Jameson survived. "Incompetent," she hissed at Mark, slamming her glass on the table. Mark flinched. "What now?" he asked. Victoria's eyes narrowed coldly. "We tighten the case against Ava. If Jameson interferes, we'll expose his relationship with her further." Mark's face paled. "And if that fails?" Victoria leaned forward, her voice venomous. "Then we destroy her completely. No mother, no child, nothing left." Mark's stomach twisted, but he lacked courage to resist. He followed her orders blindly, never realizing her obsession for control would consume them both in ways they couldn't predict. Back at Reed Global, Ava found herself working under Jameson's close watch. He walked with slower strides since the accident, but his presence remained commanding. Colleagues whispered about their supposed connection, rumors fueled by tabloids. Ava kept her focus, though inside, fear and gratitude tangled. Late one evening, Jameson approached her desk. "The evidence we found," Victoria funneled money offshore. "It matches the forged accounts in your name." Ava's breath caught. "So it proves I'm innocent?" Jameson shook his head. "Not yet, but it cracks her armor. We'll need undeniable proof to end this." Ava nodded firmly. "Then we keep digging." Court reconvened days later. Tension thick in the air. Victoria's lawyers marching confidently. Mark beside her. Ava entered with Lily in Sarah's arms, her heart pounding. Jameson appeared unexpectedly, drawing startled whispers from the gallery. His presence alone shifted the room's energy. Ava felt her knees steady, bolstered by his silent support. The judge called order. Victoria's team prepared another wave of accusations. Ava braced herself, ready to endure whatever storm they unleashed. But when Jameson rose unexpectedly to request a statement, murmurs rippled. Victoria's smug smile faltered for the first time, uncertainty flashing across her icy features. Jameson's testimony stunned the courtroom. Evidence was fabricated, he declared firmly. Victoria Sullivan has funneled money through offshore accounts for years. Transfers were forged to frame Ava Sinclair. Gasps echoed. Reporters scribbled furiously. Victoria's lawyer objected, but Jameson presented documents his investigators uncovered. Ava's heart pounded as the judge studied them. For the first time, truth pierced the lies. Victoria sat rigid, her pearls no longer shining. Mark shifted nervously, sweat forming at his brow. Ava clutched her hands together, tears welling. Finally, someone powerful had spoken for her, and in that moment, the tide began to shift in her favor. Courtroom chaos. Moments later, Victoria lashed out, her voice sharp. "Lies! All lies!" she shouted, rising from her seat. The judge struck his gavel, demanding silence. Reporters swarmed for photos, the scandal erupting into chaos. Ava sat frozen, her pulse racing, while Jameson remained calm, his eyes locked on Victoria. "The truth is coming out," he said evenly. Victoria glared, fury burning. Mark tugged her sleeve, whispering, "Mother, stop." But she shoved him away, consumed by rage. The mass of control cracked for the first time, exposing desperation beneath. Ava clutched Sarah's hand, whispering, "Please, let this be the beginning of the end." The judge called for order, demanding all sides prepare for closing arguments. Ava exhaled shakily, relief and fear colliding in her chest. Sarah squeezed her hand, while Lily dozed peacefully against her shoulder, untouched by the storm. Jameson leaned close, his voice low but resolute. "This isn't over yet, but we've wounded her." Ava met his gaze, gratitude flickering in her teary eyes. She whispered, "Thank you." Jameson studied her, realizing his involvement was no longer about justice alone. It was about her. As the courtroom settled, Ava drew strength from his presence, determined to finish this fight for her child. Closing arguments began with fire. Victoria's lawyer thundered about Ava's recklessness, waving forged papers like weapons. Ava's attorney countered quietly, reminding the judge of forged signatures and Jameson's testimony. The room split, half still doubting, half beginning to believe. Ava sat silently, praying each word carried truth to the judge's heart. She reached for Sarah's hand as Lily stirred, mumbling in her sleep. "Mama," the child whispered, unaware of the storm surrounding her. Ava blinked back tears, whispering, "I'm here, baby." Her resolve hardened. Whatever Victoria tried, she would not surrender. Not today, not ever, not while Lily needed her. The judge recessed briefly, leaving whispers buzzing. Reporters rushed outside to file stories of the shocking revelations. Ava sat still, trembling. Jameson leaned toward her. "No matter what happens, I won't abandon you," he said firmly. Ava searched his face, looking for insincerity, but found none. She swallowed hard, whispering, "I don't know why you care." Jameson's eyes softened. "Because I see the truth." Sarah smiled faintly, squeezing Ava's shoulder. For the first time, Ava let herself believe she wasn't alone in this fight. Hope flickered like a fragile flame, enough to guide her through the storm that still raged. Courtroom, judge's decision day. The judge returned, his expression unreadable. The gallery hushed instantly. He adjusted his glasses, reading from his notes. After reviewing the evidence, this court finds the charges against Ava Sinclair unsubstantiated. Custody of Lily Sinclair remains with her mother. Relief exploded through Ava's body, tears streaming freely. Sarah hugged her tightly, while Lily stirred and reached for her mother. Across the courtroom, Victoria's face twisted with disbelief. Mark slumped in his chair, pale and defeated. Jameson exhaled, shoulders loosening at last. Ava kissed Lily's hair, whispering, "We won." The words trembled, filled with gratitude, strength, and the sweetness of victory. Reporters surged forward as Ava exited the courthouse, flashes exploding like lightning. She shielded Lily's face, Sarah guiding them through the chaos. Jameson followed closely, his presence silencing much of the noise. Cameras caught every glance, every step, speculating endlessly about their connection. Ava ignored them, focusing only on Lily's laughter as a toddler clapped in delight, unaware of history unfolding around her. Ava kissed her daughter's cheek, whispering, "You're safe now." For the first time in months, her shoulders lightened. She had fought and survived. And though the road ahead remained uncertain, she was no longer walking it alone. Inside her limousine, Victoria seethed. "Corruption," she hissed, gripping her pearls so tightly they threatened to snap. Mark sat silently beside her, sweat dripping down his temples. "You promised this would work," he muttered. Victoria's eyes blazed. "It should have. That Reed man, he ruined everything." She slammed her glass against the seat, shards scattering. Mark leaned away, realizing with chilling clarity how far his mother would go. For the first time, he feared her more than he despised Ava. The empire Victoria sought to protect now crumbled in her hands, though she refused to admit defeat. Not yet. Weeks later, Ava returned to Reed Global not as a suspect, but as an employee others viewed differently. Whispers softened. Colleagues who once doubted her now looked with quiet respect. Jameson greeted her in the lobby, his usual sternness replaced with warmth. "How does it feel to walk in free?" he asked. Ava smiled faintly. "Like I can finally breathe." Lily squealed happily in Sarah's arms, reaching for her mother. Jameson's eyes lingered on the child, then on Ava. Something unspoken passed between them. Admiration, gratitude, and the beginnings of something deeper neither dared name aloud just yet. Their bond grew slowly but undeniably. Jameson visited often, sometimes under pretense of work, other times simply to see Lily. He knelt to hand her toys, laughed when she tugged his tie, and softened in ways Ava hadn't expected possible. One evening, after dinner at Sarah's, Lily fell asleep in Ava's lap. Jameson lingered by the window, gazing at the stars. "You've changed me," he admitted softly. Ava looked up, startled. "I haven't done anything." He turned to her. "You reminded me people are worth trusting again." Her chest tightened, a quiet warmth blooming she hadn't felt in years. 1 year later, new beginnings. 1 year later, Ava stood in Jameson's penthouse, Lily chasing her rabbit across the carpet. The skyline glowed through glass windows, a far cry from the despair of Sarah's tiny apartment. Ava cradled her newborn son, eyes brimming with tears of joy. Jameson stood behind her, arms encircling them both, his once guarded expression softened by love. "He has your eyes," Ava whispered. Jameson kissed her temple. "And your strength." Together, they had built something new. Family forged not by wealth or reputation, but by survival, trust, and love. For Ava, the nightmare had birthed a life she never thought possible. Victoria watched the headlines from her estate, her fury simmering. Jameson Reed marries Ava Sinclair, welcomes baby boy. Articles read. She hurled a magazine across the room, rage consuming her. Her empire was crumbling, her schemes exposed, her legacy shattered. Mark stood at the doorway, tired of her poison. "It's over, Mother," he whispered before walking away. Alone, Victoria collapsed into her chair, clutching her pearls with trembling hands. She had lost. Ava had not only survived but thrived, building the family Victoria tried to destroy. For once, silence filled her mansion, a silence sharper than any gavel strike. In the warmth of their home, Ava tucked Lily into bed, the little girl now older, her giggles echoing. She then cradled her son, rocking him gently while Jameson watched with quiet devotion. Ava kissed her baby's forehead, whispering, "You'll never know the battles that brought us here." Jameson placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice tender. "Because you fought them all." Ava smiled, tears glistening. She had been betrayed, humiliated, and nearly destroyed, but she emerged victorious. Surrounded by love, Ava finally believed in tomorrow. Her story was no longer about survival. It was about hope, family, and redemption.